Let me do this. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, how about Stacy?
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry about that. I had mega trouble getting my microphone to work tonight. I'm Stacy Kern. My house was built in 1958. It's a split level house, and we have bedrooms over the garage. One of which gets really hot in the summer and really cold in the winter, and it happens to be our nursery where we have babies sleeping. So, trying to see what I could do about that. I think one of the things that surprised me, like I had gotten new windows about 10 years ago. I was like, great, that'll be like a good thing. And Krista was like, actually, they leak too. So I thought, well, darn it, I thought I had one thing, taken care of. And they're better than the old ones for sure, but they still need sealing and weather stripping in those. And so that was, I guess, a little bit of a surprise. I was hoping that would be something that was a positive. I think this didn't surprise me, but our exterior doors are really bad. In fact, the one from the dining room out to the backyard, I think you said was basically like cardboard and it has these decorative panels and they're so thin you could just see they're just like lit up like red on the camera. So that was really bad. And then basically all of our doors need to be replaced. And then some things in the attic, I think that will help with the upstairs bedrooms and insulating in the garage. We have ductwork in the ceiling of the garage that isn't completely insulated, and hopefully some of those things that will help with the upstairs bedrooms. So I haven't done anything yet, but
Okay.
hopeful.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you. How about Ellen?
Hello, I'm Ellen. Um, my house was built in 1952 and it's a ranch. And I'm kind of echoing a lot of what I've heard already. But so I knew I needed insulation, but yeah, now I have kind of quantifiable where specifically attic and like there were areas of the basement like crawl space. I never would have even thought of that. So it's really just, I guess my overall thinking is, you guys have all said so many good things, but I guess it wasn't recording, but it's the idea of, having it all laid out. Like I knew I needed to do stuff and now I've got like a punch list. And at least I guess one of the questions was something you might tell someone who's curious about getting it. I did not expect, at least in my report, it's page 4, where they lay out like the list, estimated cost, estimated tax rebate, cost after rebate, estimated annual savings, and then also like the payback. So I can really look at it and figure out what's the best ROI. And in my case, I feel so bad for Gail and Bethany. I know that I need to HVAC and water heater are on the list, but they keep coming out and saying, you can probably squeeze a few more years out of it, but I know it's coming. And so now I've got this, like, they gave me 3 options, and how long. So I guess just, for the small investment of doing this audit to get just the big picture. So I'm not just kind of flailing around. And like Stacy said, my doors, that's going to be the first thing. It's like the low hanging fruit, the door between had a similar experience with between the garage and the house, and then also the garage and outside. Anyway, I feel like I talk too much, but it was a great experience. Highly recommend it. And thank you, Mission.
It is really the best town, right? Okay, how about Christy?
Hi, I'm Christy. My house was built in 1920. It's 103 years old. And the reason that I wanted the audit was because it's Swiss cheese. It never was insulated appropriately. The windows are awful. I'm just like bleeding heat and air. And so I found it it confirmed a lot of what I had known. There were also some areas that I didn't know. Like I can assume that the circular hole in my AC unit was where the ghosts live, but as it turns out, it's actually supposed to have a pipe attached to it that where it draws air from the outside. And I was like, huh, well, when I bought the house, it wasn't there. So I just assumed I didn't need one. So I think it was very, very enlightening. And particularly the differences in the small amount of insulation that I did have. It was it was only a fraction of what it should be. And so I have a big major overhaul plan. Sorry, Alexa off. Alexa off. Sorry. And so I want to know kind of where to start, like besides siding and windows, and probably just talk through some of the options with them. Because I heard it's going to be a cold winter, and there's a couple of cold, dark days left before spring. So I just want to, limp along through the winter and prioritize the projects, or if there's anything I can do before it gets bitter cold, I'll do that now.
Okay, thank you. How about Keith?
Hello. So I was folding laundry while we were.
I love a good multitask.
I'm Keith Kennedy. Our house is a 1940, so I think that makes it 83 years old. I always called it a glorified tent, and the audit kind of showed that's true. At the old house, we still have the original windows, so I figured, oh, that was probably the top thing. Windows and doors were still one of the things. I was actually surprised at how bad our door from the kitchen to the outside really is. The picture showed it's basically cardboard. So that was interesting. But I think that probably the biggest surprise was that we barely have any insulation in our attic.
Okay.
There were parts that it was bright red, so there's like a whole section that had no insulation in there. So gotta love those inspections that happen when you buy the house. We lived here for 3 years. We bought it in the middle of 2020, so basically everyone just kind of like, oh yep, there's a house there, okay, bye. And inspections were terrible then. But so we knew that was probably, there's something with that, but knowing that that's the top priority is probably really helpful. And when we talk about what was great about the experience, I think one of the things someone mentioned was how unintrusive it was. I had our 9-month-old at the time, or she was 10 months old, slept through the whole thing, which she's a terrible sleeper. We were so shocked that she slept through the whole thing. So that was really a surprise. And Crystal was really good with our 3-year-old. She kept calling her the fixer. She's like, hey fixer, hey fixer.
You get a new t-shirt, Tom Crystal.
Yeah. So again, with what other people had said, it kind of gives you a nice priority list, because there's so many different things that we could do to our old house. But knowing, okay, this is the thing that's going to make the biggest improvement, and then the next thing, and then the next thing is really helpful. And then you can kind of do the little things. So one of the little things was taping our ducts. And so I've been kind of slowly doing that throughout, because they're not all the seams were taped. And so I was like, well, that's something I could do. That's pretty easy. I can do that, when babies are sleeping, or things like that, in my spare time. So yeah, the list is really helpful, and knowing what to prioritize. We would not have thought to insulate our attic, but I think that's probably one of our top things that we're going to try and do, hopefully before the end of this year, so we can take advantage of the tax breaks, because that's one of the things that we forgot about was the tax breaks. And so then we can prioritize. We'll do a few windows here, and then a few windows next year, and that sort of thing. So hopefully that covered all 3 areas. But I've been really happy that I didn't have to pay for it, and it's given me lots of different things to prioritize and take advantage of some of the improvements to make.
That's great. Thank you. How about Lori? Lori, are you ready?
Oh, are you talking? Oh, are you talking, Carolyn?
Let's do you. Let's do Carolyn.
Okay. My name's Carolyn Rogers. Bought my home in 1995. It is 83 years old. And I knew I needed insulation in the attic because I had had a new roof installed. But the old roof had let water in, and I had a lot of mold remediation done.
Okay.
So they took out the mold, but they do not replace the insulation.
Okay.
So what I do have left is only an R11, and they recommend R42 up there in the attic. I also have room that I cannot even go into in the winter because it's so cold, and found out that there is no insulation in my walls, and there's no insulation in the bedroom ceiling. So that's why I can't go in there. But I seem to have leaks everywhere. No insulation anywhere, and what insulation there is, it's so flat because it's just old. And it's the whole process. I was so glad that I was chosen to have this audit done. It is an old house, but it is mine, and I'm going to be staying here regardless of how leaky it is. But that's about it. Just me and my leaky house.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. That's great. It's important. Okay, Lori, can you hear us? Are you interested in sharing?
Hi, I didn't have an audit done. I just saw you were having
Oh,
this meeting, so
that's
I'm just observing to find out about it because I asked about it at the environmental fair that you had earlier, and
great.
the funding was gone at that time. So thank you.
Perfect. Okay, thank you. So sorry, I got you mixed up. Warren?
Yeah, hi everybody.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, so my house was built in 1946. My wife and I bought it and moved in the summer of 2021. We bought it knowing a few things, that our windows were original or close to it, so very, very old windows. Fireplace was non-functional. The damper was broken in the open position, and our exterior back door is very thin. So in the summer, it's hot. In the winter, it's fogged over or iced over. Our AC unit went out that first summer we were here, so we got it replaced entirely, entire HVAC system. And then I also went on one of those Evergy like time of use plans as well. However, after all of that, we still have high energy bills. And in the spring of this year, I got a few quotes to replace our windows. We ultimately decided to wait to replace those until we had just like a better understanding of what our home actually needed in terms of energy efficiency. You know, window people are very eager to sell you their windows, but we didn't actually know what our house really needed. So it was sort of fortuitous, but the next piece is that in that giant storm that rolled through the area in July, it blew over two of our backyard trees. Our big one, our 77-year-old oak tree, broke in half, hit our roof above our upstairs bathroom. That required replacement of the roof and the ceiling, did some other things around the house. And we sort of took that as an opportunity, took this opportunity, the energy audit. It seemed to happen at the exact right time, you know, knowing that we could incorporate fixes after this, you know, pretty traumatic damage was happening to the house was ultimately a really great thing, good timing. So to echo everyone else here, it was a good experience. It was quick, it was non-invasive. It was really nice to work with Krista in person, have her walk through and explain everything. Gave us real answers and a strategy to tackle the energy inefficiencies. Since our house, the work on our house is still ongoing, we haven't put the recommendations into effect yet, but you know, that's sort of next on the checklist after those major house repairs and renovations occur. I think what surprised me is that many of the cost-effective solutions can help with efficiencies. So yeah, we need new windows. Yes, we need a new back door. Yes, we need to get our chimneys damper fixed. But a lot of the strategies, the recommendations that Krista had for us were super cost effective. You know, use foil tape around your ductwork, use foam insulation behind all of your light switch plates, caulk around your window, your ceiling trim, use weather stripping, that kind of thing. So ultimately it was a great experience. We plan to implement pretty much all of those recommendations as much as we can. We're really glad to have been part of this pilot project. Feel lucky to have been selected, and it sort of happened right at the right time for us. And I would recommend that anyone who is interested, anyone who's curious about looking into efficiencies in their own home, have an energy audit done. It was great.
Thank you. I realize I should give a little word of the bigger picture perhaps before we launch into the second half of this discussion. And first, just thanks everyone for sharing. It's just great that everyone's been so willing to be so open. We are, I know most of you know and follow along, but our city council is extremely dedicated to climate action, and we have a lot of residents for whom that is extremely important. And so while everyone's talking from an individual perspective, I didn't kick off this meeting with any kind of big picture planet Earth motivation, but we have just completed a greenhouse gas inventory update, and we looked both at city facilities and municipal operations, the carbon emissions that result as a result of all of those activities. But then we also did the community inventory, and that's just taking any kind of inputs that we can find: number of homes, number of businesses, road miles, I'm forgetting all the other ones, but we pulled data in around January of this year and have updates, and those are available on our website. There's a story map that you could look at, as well as a full report. And the two largest contributors are transportation and buildings, the emissions from building energy use and transportation energy use. And so as we talk as a city staff and our council about how we can move the needle and hit our climate action goals, we can do a lot, and we have, we converted our streetlights to LED. We upgraded all of the light fixtures in our interior buildings. We've upgraded HVAC systems at the community center and at Public Works. We do all of these things, and still we're only really talking about 4 buildings. And so then quickly the attention turns to everyone else and how we can motivate and kind of be a motivator for both businesses and residents, and so private property and how we can impact that. And I mean, it's just a win that it helps everyone's pocketbook as well as the climate action goals, of course, but we're just really now talking about how to multiply these impacts. And that was the idea. How do we kind of worm our way into the leadership role in the private space? And, we can't control people's homes, but we can sure incentivize, or we can educate. And so that's kind of where we are now acting. And so in that vein, I would just really love to hear people's thoughts about sharing out. I mean, this has been enjoyable for me, obviously. And we'll talk about how we'll share on the website and be able to direct people through different means. But I think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think that if one of you were to attend an HOA meeting or a neighborhood meeting and share this experience, provide contact information for some contractors that we know and trust, or even a quick list of ideas. But I mean, a testimonial from someone saying, I had no idea my back door is basically cardboard. Like, I find that to be pretty convincing. So would you all just speak to that? Anyone who feels like they might want to share, just if you'd be willing, and if you think that would be impactful, and then what kind of groups you think might be targets for us?
I know Bethany and I have talked about it and would be willing to do that.
Okay.
We don't have an HOA in our neighborhood, and so we were thinking, like, well, what does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
like, we don't have meetings that we go to regularly for homes, but we had been talking about trying to get our kind of little neighborhood. We live off of a 2-street kind of offset area of Mission, and trying to get our neighbors together to do a block party and things like that. And so just thinking about ways to do that. But regardless of kind of our next door neighbors, we'd be happy to go to other people's experience and kind of just speak to what we experienced. And we're a particularly young couple and young owners relatively. I mean, we're not that young anymore. We're in our 30s, but I think that it speaks a little differently when you talk about budgeting these kind of things and managing kind of the cost over time. It's a very different conversation when you say, you know, I can do one project at a time. Basically 1 year gets one project every year. That's really where we are. And I think that is a different conversation than potentially, at least in my brain, it's a different conversation than somebody who's lived in their home for 20 or 30 years and is maybe at retirement age or close to it. Like that's just different conversations, and the way that you have them is maybe more targeted or more strategic.
Great thought. What else? Terry, you raised your hand?
Yes, I would definitely be willing to go to HOAs and speak. In my neighborhood, we don't have an HOA, but what we do have is a neighborhood watch program. And certainly if you have that, normally, well, in our area, like, well, of course, it's always me. I keep track of all the neighbors' contact information, and we have had block parties in the past. We did this last year, but certainly bringing the neighbors together just in like from a neighborhood watch program would be, I think, very successful. And I think because it would be a small group, like in my case, I'd be willing to invite my neighbors to my house to talk about that, the opportunity for them to learn and gain information about what a great program and opportunity it would be to do the energy audits.
Great. Any other thoughts or opportunities? Yeah, Ellen?
I guess I'm just thinking, yeah, I'd be happy to help in any way. So grateful. But, you know, you have our different kinds of houses. So pairing us up with the different neighborhood. I mean, not everyone on my block has the same, but I mean, I think you could, so that we don't all have to go to everything.
Yeah.
You know, like,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in my mind, I was picturing, because we really did, we had the list of applicants and we chose by housing type, housing decade, and then kind of your all statements about why you were interested in my gauge of how willing you might be to implement some changes, which was subjective. But we did try to spread it out, and then we also put it across the city. And so theoretically, you all have different neighbors for the most part and represent different decades of homes. And I do think we could combine, you know, use a photo or housing type image, you know, even do a graphic representation of one of your homes. Not so it's like a picture of your house, but, you know, something that kind of showed your footprint or your envelope of your home, and then said, you know, quick descriptions, you know, and just kind of got that out. In my mind, I was picturing a brochure that would summarize and would have testimonials and would have a few photographs and then kind of the heavy hitter projects. But I'm open to ideas. I mean, when I was thinking about Gail and Bethany, you were saying, you know, you don't have a meeting in particular, and like we have our ward meetings, but those are not so well attended. Ward 4 is probably the most attended, but then maybe Ward 1 has a couple. But some neighborhood groups have active meetings. Others are mostly, like you say, like block parties, which is not the time necessarily, but then that made me go to like a door hanger or a flyer that you could share with your neighbors, that just like take a couple blocks and say, hey, I live up at whatever street and I just had this, you know, I'm trying to help the city get the word out, which I think could be really impactful.
I also think there's something to be said for text and email options. I think those can be really effective depending on the generation of people. We missed our call from Green Cat because I thought it was spam. I get that much spam that I thought they were spamming us. And Mitt just totally missed it. And I appreciate you, Emily, because then once I reached out, you got me in contact with them super fast. But if it had come through email, we would have never missed it. It would have been, oh, that's great. I'm so appreciative to have that information. Whereas I'm much more likely, at least we are much more likely to throw something away that shows up on our doorstep. I don't know, something to consider if people can opt in. And then I think some people are more willing, but we are especially more willing to send personal emails, to send like, hey, this is not just a spam email. This is I'm reaching out to you as my neighbor and we participated in this thing. We got your email because you signed up for it. Here's
Mhm.
what our experience was.
Yeah.
But I don't know how other people feel about that, but I think we've talked a lot about that's really an effective mode of communication and advertising, at least in our late millennial group, I guess, or
Yeah.
or Gen X group.
Yeah.
And I think for me, like, I think this is all good information to have so far. I feel like I need to go further with it before I can really speak to
Yeah.
the benefits. And that's the hard part for me. Like, this was very convenient to have, this recommended and be able to go with the contractors that you guys had. And now I need more contractors because I've got to figure
Mhm.
out who does these projects. And so
Mhm.
I feel like I can certainly speak positively about the audit, but now I need to like do something in order to be able to
Mhm.
say, and this is the outcome of where we got to. So I'm
That's
probably
a great
not
point.
quite ready to go all in until I can show
Yeah.
what I did with it and how to fix the stuff.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And I mean, I don't know, but I don't know how long we can track all of you. But just say, can I take a look at your utility bills in a year and a half? Might be really awesome. And we did bring that up at our last Sustainability Commission meeting, just to sort of say our goal here is making change, both for you as an individual homeowner and then also for our planet. And if we can't demonstrate that we did anything with this information, then we didn't quite hit the mark. I mean, knowledge is power, but you have to do something with it. And so talking about that tracking and that kind of what we can show. So I mean, I do owe you. I mean, I wish I had a list for all of the categories to share. And the city often is in a little bit of a bind with we can't ever stop at just recommending one vendor as just too preferential. So we have to like gather up multiples, which often falls to our residents. We have other grant programs, and getting the 3 bids is the hardest part and takes a lot of tracking down, as you all know. And so I think in my mind, I don't want anyone to hesitate, because even as we were talking about it in the Sustainability Commission, we had other people that were getting really excited and, oh, hey, I wonder about my own house. And so I don't want anyone to stop and wait for all of you to have progress shown. Let's do more audits if anyone's willing to fund them themselves, or share that kind of information, or like Keith, if somebody could just grab a roll of the metal duct tape and get to work. Let's not act like any of that is a secret. So I think there's benefit in kind of keeping both tracks moving, but definite interest in watching what you all do and then checking back in and seeing the impact.
One of the things I was going to say about getting people interested is either on this website or somehow like doing what to expect. Like, I'm the kind of person that looks up the menu before I go, and I've already decided what I'm going to eat before I go.
Okay.
And so if someone's going to be interested in doing this, maybe it's here's what to expect. It's an hour long. They put a big fan in your door. They walk around and point out different things, and then you get a report that prioritizes what you do. That would sell me on that a little bit more than, oh yeah, energy audit's good, I guess. Like, I probably should do something like that. So what to expect can be helpful.
I think that's a great point.
I like that.
How about Rob or Krista, do you have anything you want to share, like where you hear this conversation going so far, or what did you saw that, all the things were probably typical for what you've seen elsewhere, or any kind of feedback?
Hi. So I think that just putting more information about all the different rebates and tax credits out there
Mhm.
and putting more information about how the audits work could be really great for this. And also potentially doing some follow-up blower door tests after the work is done, because then you can show the air leakage is reduced. Because I just did a bunch of work on my house, and we did a blower door before and then after, and we reduced our air leakage by 28%, which was pretty big numbers. So I think maybe doing some follow-ups could help show some of that progress.
That's cool. Rob, do you have thoughts? I see you're saving energy as we speak.
Yeah, really. I'm sorry it's so dark in my room here. So.
That's good.
Yeah, and don't forget, as your auditors, I mean, we're always there if you need any advice or you know, you have any questions on any of the recommendations that we've made, feel free to, I'm sure Chris will say the same thing. Feel free to call us. And yeah, I would be willing to do a couple of follow-ups too, if any of the people that we did the audits for did, you know, do air sealing and insulation, that we'd love to come out and do the follow-up blower door and see how well it was done and everything. So on there. Also, as far as, I mean, I'm not sure how you're working with the contractors and that, but I know we've got a list of contractors that we deal with, like with HVAC and things like that, and I'm sure Carissa does too. So if you have any questions on who to contact for any of the work, feel free to call your auditors. Again, we're just because we did the audit for the 1 hour, that doesn't mean we're not around to help you out afterwards too. That's part of the whole audit service. And we're trying to get the word out there, you know, that energy audits are good too. And you know, it's been a long struggle over 15 years that we've been in business to try and get people to realize it. And I think with all the new tax credits and everything that are out there, I think it's going to be a big thing for us. Don't forget, tax credits are available this year. They're also available next year. You can start all over anything you do next year. Also, Evergy will have some rebates available in Kansas. They're saying starting the 1st, but we'll see how long that takes. And they're hoping to get Kansas Gas on board too, as far as rebates from the utilities for air sealing, insulation, and furnaces, water heaters, things like that. So, and this was really informative to us just to hear the feedback from everybody. I'm glad everybody had a good experience on it and everything. So, and Lisa, your insulation wasn't that bad in the attic. I'm gonna go back and look at what our audit review said. There were some areas that were low, if I remember correctly, but most of the areas weren't that bad, but it could use a little bit more. I'm gonna go back and look at that, and I'll probably send you a quick email on that. So.
That'd be great. Emily, did you share the contractor's information? Because my air conditioning unit just went out and I need somebody to come out and fix it.
No, I haven't shared anything. I have suggestions here and there from Rob and Krista, but I need to pull all of that in a more organized way and give it to you all. But I'll move that up on my list as kind of my next step. I don't know. I mean, I can reach out to you tomorrow and see if I have anybody just right off the bat, but I'll try to pull a full list together for all the various tasks that we've identified. Krista brought names we were brainstorming before we even started the audits, and so I still have those resources, Krista, that you shared. And if anybody else comes to mind, please let me know. And Rob, same. And maybe I'll just check that with both of you before I send it out. And so that'll be on my list. If I could add to your list, I just really think if you could share with me, you know, the things that you think you might be working on in the next 3 months or so, and your income, your household income. I'm gonna have to just divvy this up. And I went into my boss, the city administrator, Laura, and I said, I don't know how we're gonna do this. Like, we have this pot of money and that's really great, but I got to get it to the people. And so we have to figure that out. So bear with me on that. But I think the next step, and just in a private session, if you could just shoot me an email and say, and I mean, if you're not ready to say that because you need to call the contractors, I understand, but whatever top few things you're interested in investigating, or the projects that you might be preparing to pick up a phone and actually call a few contractors, I'd be interested in knowing that. Just kind of where you are in the next, I mean, really like 6 weeks. If you could just give me a sense, if nothing's going to happen for the next little while, that's okay too. But just check in with me about actually like the next few weeks. And if I gave you a list of 3 different people who could do the thing that you were most interested in doing, would you be doing it in the next 6 weeks? Depending on the cost, of course. So I kind of just need that sense from each of you. And then I'll try to move as quickly as we can to just let you know what to expect. That way we can just kind of work from there. It balances out. We set the program to have around $1,500 after the audits for about this many homes. That was kind of based on some insulation work estimates that we got from the Metropolitan Energy Center before we set the program up. But then, like I said, our council was like, you know, if we could do a sliding scale to factor in people's income, that would be all the better to just stretch our dollars further. So I'm going to be taking that into account. So
might I contribute a little bit? I used to live in Idaho briefly, very briefly. It's very cold beautiful state. Don't want to live there again. But the city I lived in did a similar thing at the time, and they did not only income, but they also asked for people's disposable income. So that way it accounted for things like people who have people in college or student loans, or maybe they're already paying a bigger medical debt or something like that. It accounted for some of that. And it might be something that you guys might take into account. I think it's great that you guys are subsidizing and thinking about how to do a sliding scale. I think it's brilliant. And I think it really takes our large, very diverse community into account, not just kind of a fairness, but equity concept. And I love that.
No, I think that's perfect. So yeah, if you can, you know, whatever you're comfortable sharing with me, I will take into account, and household income and disposable income would be great. If you can break that apart and share that out, that'd be great. I think, I mean, we're almost to an hour, and I don't know how long you all thought we would hang out. But I think this has been wonderful. And I think I'm so happy that our contractors joined and could hear, because I thought everyone, I mean, they were a joy to work with on my end, and so helpful. And I was so grateful as soon as I saw them scheduling. They didn't expressly say, hey, I want to move, let's get these on the books, but they did. And it was wonderful to have all of you be able to do them in such a tight time frame, so that we could kind of have this kind of meeting and we didn't have a lot of stragglers, and that was really appreciated. So thank you both, Rob and Krista. And then yeah, I think this is the start of something, not the end of something. So I think we'll just keep in touch. There's, you know, more names on that spreadsheet, and I have their contact information. And as we grow our list, I hope I'm sharing resources. I mean, who knows, if the rebates start on January 1 on the Kansas side, and I can start emailing everybody that, we can just keep this list intact and keep educating as a group, which I think would be really cool. So yeah, does anyone have closing thoughts or questions?
I was just wondering, can we share this information? Do we have a Facebook page for the City of Mission and have some of this information on there?
Yeah, we do have. We have Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Nextdoor and our website, and the Mission magazine goes out to about 14,000 homes, and those are probably the leading ones, the methods. I do think what I need to do is build a web page that, you know, has kind of the storytelling and the rebate information and contractors for both. And I think the steps of the audit, I think that would be great. So then we have a landing spot to direct people to, that we can keep hitting and directing traffic. But I mean, point well taken, Gail, about the text and email as well. We have text alert capabilities. We've only used them for the Mission Market reminders for people who've opted in, or then we use them for like emergencies. It's the system that the county dispatch office uses. So
it's nobody's fault. I just hate my phone.
No. You're not
so anything that comes through email is more respected, I think, at this point in my life.
Yes. And we use constant contact. I send out the Mission monthly. If anyone on this group hasn't received that, that's a pretty good monthly email update for city events. We advertise this program through that email, but just targeted like as a one issue email. We haven't tried that yet, but we sure could. And I think the timing of the rebates might be an excellent time to do that, to really use your words to prompt their action after we've had a little bit more time together, to kind of do some of that follow up. So that's where my head is. I appreciate you all being game to wander through this with me. But know that your city council is extremely supportive and excited to help out when they can. And there's tips, you know, whatever. This is just the beginning. We have a number of grant programs, and we've had them on the books for a long time. And I think this could be something that kind of gets baked in and we do more of. But I think it only means as much as we do like the care and feeding of the program. So that was my intention, is to take this group of 15 and walk with you all for a while. And then I think we would make a stronger recommendation for funding and things for 2025, budget year 2025. So that's where I'm thinking. Thank you so much. Happy birthday to whoever it is.
Thank you, Emily. So nice to finally meet you.
Yes, thank you. All right. Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Leave. Just click out. Maybe. Leave meeting.